The day everything changed. Jasmine Brooks stood in the corner office on the 42nd floor, watching the afternoon sun paint golden streaks across the Manhattan skyline. She had been working for Hamilton Industries for 3 years, 9 months, and 22 days. Not that she was counting. Except she was. Every single day felt like a small battle she had to win just to make it through. Derek Hamilton was not just difficult. He was a force of nature wrapped in expensive suits and impossible expectations. His reputation in the corporate world was legendary. People whispered about his genius in boardrooms and his temper in break rooms. Jasmine had learned to navigate both with careful precision, becoming the one person who could anticipate his needs before he voiced them. The storm arrives. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning when Jasmine presented her quarterly analysis. She had spent 3 weeks gathering data, creating projections, and preparing recommendations that could save the company millions. Derek barely glanced at the first page before pushing the entire report off his desk. Papers scattered across the polished floor like fallen leaves. "This is garbage," he said, his voice cold and sharp. "I asked for solutions, not theories. Anyone with a business degree could put together this useless collection of numbers." Jasmine felt something crack inside her chest. It was not the first time he had dismissed her work. It was not even the 10th time. But something about today felt different. Maybe it was because she had sacrificed her nephew's birthday party to finish the report. Maybe it was because she had not slept more than 4 hours a night for the past month. Or maybe it was simply that after years of being treated like she was invisible, she finally understood that she deserved better. The explosion. Derek stood up from his desk, his tall frame casting a shadow across the scattered papers. His jaw was tight, and his eyes held that dangerous glint that usually sent assistants running from the room. He grabbed his coffee mug and threw it against the wall. The ceramic shattered, sending dark liquid dripping down the white paint. "You are easy to replace," he shouted, pointing at her with a trembling finger. "Do you understand that? One phone call. That is all it takes. One phone call and I could have someone competent sitting at your desk by tomorrow morning." The office fell silent. Even the usual hum of the air conditioning seemed to pause. Jasmine could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. This was the moment where she was supposed to apologize, to promise to do better, to shrink herself down until she fit into whatever shape Derek needed her to be. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and met his angry gaze with complete calm. "The question that changed everything." "Then explain why you never have," Jasmine said quietly. Derek froze. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. The angry red color in his cheek seemed to drain away, replaced by something that looked almost like confusion. "What did you say?" he asked. Jasmine took a step forward. Her hands were steady at her sides, her voice clear and measured. "You heard me perfectly well, Mr. Hamilton. If I am so easy to replace, why have you never managed to do it? In the 3 years I have worked here, you have threatened to fire me at least 200 times. Yet here I stand. The truth comes out." Derek opened his mouth to respond, but Jasmine was not finished. Years of silence had built up inside her like pressure in a volcano, and now that it was erupting, she could not stop. "Do you remember Jennifer? Your assistant before me? She lasted exactly 3 days before your screaming sent her to the emergency room with a panic attack. Then there was Robert. He made it 2 weeks before he accidentally sent confidential contracts to the wrong client because you had him so terrified he could not think straight. And let us not forget Patricia, who lasted all of one afternoon before walking out during your lunch meeting with the investors." Derek's face had gone pale. He sank back into his leather chair, and for the first time since Jasmine had known him, he looked small. "Those were different circumstances," he said, but his voice had lost its power. "No," Jasmine replied. "They were patterns. The same pattern that repeats every time you try to replace me. Because the truth is, Mr. Hamilton, you do not just need an assistant. You need someone who understands how your mind works. Someone who can translate your impossible demands into actual results. Someone who can manage your schedule, your clients, your entire professional life while you focus on being brilliant and difficult. The resignation. Jasmine reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. She had written the letter 3 days ago, carrying it with her like a talisman. Part of her had hoped she would never need to use it. But standing here now, watching Derek struggle to find words, she knew it was time. "This is my resignation," she said, placing the envelope on his desk. "I am giving you 2 weeks' notice because despite everything, I believe in doing things properly. Use that time to find my replacement. Use it to find 10 replacements if you want. But we both know what is going to happen." Derek stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. "You cannot just quit. Watch me." Jasmine turned toward the door, her heels clicking against the floor with each step. She had made it halfway across the room when Derek's voice stopped her. "Jasmine." It was the first time in 3 years he had used her first name. The sound of it made her pause, her hand on the door handle. "What?" she asked without turning around. There was a long silence. Jasmine could feel him behind her, could almost hear the wheels turning in his mind as he searched for something to say that would make her stay. "Where will you go?" he finally asked, and his voice sounded strange. Smaller. Almost vulnerable. Jasmine allowed herself a small smile. "Somewhere I am valued, Mr. Hamilton. Somewhere people say thank you instead of throwing coffee mugs. Somewhere I can actually use my skills instead of just managing someone else's chaos." She opened the door and stepped through without looking back. Behind her, she heard Derek stand up, heard papers rustling as he picked up her resignation letter. But she did not stop. She walked past her desk, grabbed her purse, and headed for the elevator. The first taste of freedom. As the elevator doors closed, Jasmine caught her reflection in the polished metal. She looked different somehow. Her eyes were brighter. Her shoulders were back. For the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe properly. Her phone buzzed in her purse. A text from her sister, "Lunch today?" Jasmine smiled and typed back, "Absolutely. I just quit my job." The response was immediate, "What? Tell me everything." As the elevator descended toward the ground floor, Jasmine felt something she had not experienced in a long time. Hope. Real, genuine hope that her life was about to get so much better. Behind her, 42 floors up, Derek Hamilton sat alone in his office, staring at a resignation letter and realizing that for the first time in his entire career, he had absolutely no idea what to do next. The replacement disaster begins. Derek Hamilton stared at his computer screen, scrolling through resumes that all looked identical. Impressive degrees from prestigious universities. Years of experience with Fortune 500 companies. Glowing recommendations from previous employers. On paper, any one of these candidates should have been perfect. He hired the first replacement on Monday morning. Her name was Amanda Pierce, and she came with 15 years of executive assistant experience. She had worked for 3 different CEOs and had letters of recommendation that praised her efficiency and professionalism. By Tuesday afternoon, Amanda had accidentally deleted an entire database of client contact information while trying to organize Derek's files. By Wednesday morning, she was gone. The parade of failures. The second replacement was a young man named Trevor Ross. He had graduated top of his class from business school and seemed eager to prove himself. Derek watched him carefully, looking for signs of the competence he desperately needed. Trevor lasted exactly 4 days. On the 5th morning, Derek found a note on his desk written on company letterhead. It contained only 3 words, "I cannot anymore." The third replacement, a confident woman named Patricia Hughes, made it through an entire week. She seemed to handle Derek's demanding schedule well enough, never flinching when he raised his voice or slammed his fist on the desk. Derek started to feel hopeful. Then came the disaster with the Japanese investors. Patricia had mixed up the meeting times, confused the client names, and somehow scheduled Derek for 3 different appointments at the exact same time. The chaos cost Hamilton Industries a potential $20 million contract. Patricia handed in her resignation that same afternoon, her hands shaking as she placed the letter on Derek's desk. "I have worked with difficult people before," she said quietly. "But you are impossible. And I finally understand why Jasmine Brooks left. The only mystery is why she stayed as long as she did." The crumbling empire. Derek's carefully constructed world began falling apart in ways he had never imagined. Without Jasmine managing the details, everything descended into chaos. He showed up to meetings unprepared because nobody had compiled the briefing documents the way she used to. He missed important phone calls because his new assistants could not figure out which ones actually mattered. He even forgot his own mother's birthday, something Jasmine had always reminded him about a week in advance. The 4th, 5th, and 6th replacements came and went in rapid succession. One quit after Derek yelled at her for bringing him the wrong lunch order. Another left in tears after making a minor scheduling error. The third simply stopped showing up after the second day, blocking Derek's number and refusing to return calls from human resources. By the end of the second month, Derek had gone through 9 different assistants. His reputation in the industry, already known for being difficult, had transformed into something darker. Word spread quickly. Executive assistants began declining interviews before even hearing the salary offer. Recruitment agencies started refusing to work with Hamilton Industries altogether. Jasmine's new life. 15 blocks away, Jasmine Brooks was discovering what it felt like to actually enjoy her job. She had taken a position at Brightwell Innovations, a growing tech company run by a remarkable woman named Diana Foster. Diana believed in treating employees like human beings rather than replaceable parts in a machine. On Jasmine's first day, Diana had personally shown her around the office, introducing her to everyone by name. "We are building something special here," Diana had said. "And that means valuing the people who make it all possible." Within 3 weeks, Jasmine had been promoted to operations coordinator. Within 2 months, she was leading her own team. The work was challenging, but it was the kind of challenge that made her excited to get out of bed in the morning rather than dreading the alarm clock. Her coworkers actually listened to her ideas. Her boss said thank you and meant it. She had lunch breaks where she could actually leave the building. She went home at reasonable hours. She remembered what it felt like to have energy for her own life instead of pouring everything into managing someone else's chaos. The midnight realization. But late at night, when the apartment was quiet and sleep would not come, Jasmine found herself thinking about Derek Hamilton. Not with anger anymore, but with something more complicated. She wondered if he had figured out how to function without her. She wondered if he had learned anything from her departure. She wondered if some small part of him actually missed her, or if she had just been another disposable piece of his empire. She told herself these thoughts were ridiculous. Derek Hamilton did not miss people. He did not learn lessons. He simply moved on, crushing anyone who got in his way. Except he had not moved on. And Jasmine was about to discover exactly why. The unexpected visitor. It was a Thursday afternoon when the receptionist at Brightwell Innovations called Jasmine's desk. "There is someone here to see you," she said, her voice uncertain. "He says it is urgent." Jasmine walked to the lobby, expecting a delivery or perhaps a colleague from another department. Instead, she found Derek Hamilton standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city below. He wore his usual expensive suit, but something about him seemed different. Smaller somehow. Less certain. "What are you doing here?" Jasmine asked, crossing her arms over her chest. Derek turned to face her, and she was shocked by what she saw. He looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His tie was slightly crooked, something the old Derek would never have allowed. In his hands, he held a leather portfolio that he gripped too tightly. "I need to talk to you," he said. "It is about the Henderson project. You could have called. You would not have answered." He was right. Jasmine had ignored 12 phone calls from him over the past month, deleted 27 emails without reading them, and told her assistant to turn him away twice when he had tried to visit before. 5 minutes, Jasmine said, checking her watch. "That is all I can give you." The confession. They found a small conference room on the 3rd floor. Jasmine sat on one side of the table while Derek took the chair opposite her, maintaining careful distance between them. "The Henderson project is falling apart," Derek began, opening his portfolio. "It is the biggest undertaking Hamilton Industries has ever attempted. A complete technology infrastructure overhaul for hospital systems across 8 states. The contract is worth $600 million over 4 years." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "Congratulations. What does this have to do with me?" "Everything." Derek pushed the portfolio across the table. "The original proposal was yours. I found it in your files after you left. You had been developing it during your last 2 months at the company." Jasmine remembered that proposal. She had spent countless hours researching, analyzing, and creating a comprehensive plan that she believed could revolutionize healthcare technology. She had never shown it to Derek because she had resigned before finding the courage. "That was incomplete," she said carefully. "Just rough ideas." "It was brilliant," Derek replied, and there was no arrogance in his voice now. "The board approved it immediately when I presented it. But there is a problem. Let me guess. You cannot execute it without understanding the vision behind it." Derek leaned back in his chair, and for the first time since she had known him, he looked genuinely vulnerable. "I cannot execute it at all. The Henderson Group specifically requested that you be involved after they saw your name on the original documentation. But more than that, Jasmine, I cannot do any of this without you. Not just the project. Everything." The truth emerges. Jasmine felt her heart beat faster. "What are you saying?" "I am saying I spent 3 months trying to prove you wrong. 3 months convincing myself that your absence was just an inconvenience. That any qualified professional could do what you did." Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I went through 11 assistants, Jasmine. 11 people. And every single one of them failed because none of them understood something you knew instinctively." "Which was?" "That I am not just difficult. I am broken." The words hung in the air between them. Derek stood up and walked to the window, his back to her. "I grew up with nothing. My father walked out when I was 6. My mother worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. I learned early that the only person I could trust was myself. That needing anyone was weakness. That depending on someone meant giving them the power to hurt you." Jasmine felt something shift inside her. She had always known there was pain beneath Derek's armor, but she had never expected him to acknowledge it. "So you push people away," she said softly. "You make yourself impossible to work with because if they leave, you can tell yourself it was your choice." Derek nodded, still facing the window. "Losing you made me realize what I had been doing. And why it was destroying everything that actually mattered. The proposal." He turned back to face her, and in his eyes, Jasmine saw something she had never seen before. Hope mixed with fear. "I am not asking you to come back to Hamilton Industries. I am proposing something different. A partnership. Your company and mine, working together on the Henderson project. Equal collaboration. Shared credit. Shared success." Jasmine stared at him in disbelief. Derek Hamilton did not share anything. His need for control was absolute, his ego legendary. The fact that he was standing here offering partnership meant something fundamental had changed. "What happened to you?" she asked quietly. I lost the one person who made me want to be better, Derek said. And I spent 3 months learning exactly what that cost me. The 5 minutes Jasmine had promised stretched into 20, then 40. They talked about the Henderson project, yes, but also about deeper things. Derek's childhood in a small apartment where bills were always overdue. Jasmine's own struggles as the daughter of a single mother who had worked 3 jobs to send her to college. The pressure they both felt to succeed, to prove themselves worthy. I will talk to Diana, Jasmine said finally. If she agrees to the partnership, I will consider being involved. But you need to understand something, Derek. Name it. I am not coming back to be your assistant. I am not coming back to be ordered around or screamed at. If we work together, it will be as equals. Complete equals. Derek extended his hand across the table. Partners. Jasmine looked at his outstretched hand, remembering all the times those hands had thrown objects, slammed desks, gestured dismissively at her work. But she also remembered the way those same hands had once held the door for an elderly janitor, had signed anonymous charity checks, had steadied her arm when she slipped on ice outside the office. Derek Hamilton was not a simple man. He was complicated and infuriating and deeply flawed. But maybe, just maybe, he was capable of change. She took his hand. Partners. Building something new. The partnership between Hamilton Industries and Brightwell Innovations became the talk of the business world. Industry magazines called it an unexpected alliance. Financial analysts debated whether it would succeed or implode spectacularly. The Henderson Group was thrilled. And suddenly, Jasmine found herself spending more time with Derek than she had during all her years as his assistant. The difference was everything. Now she could challenge him without fear. Now she could argue her position knowing he would actually listen. Now they were building something together rather than her simply executing his vision. Their first joint meeting set the tone for everything that followed. Derek presented his implementation strategy with his usual confidence. Jasmine listened carefully, then pulled out her own tablet. Your timeline is unrealistic, she said. You are trying to deploy across 8 states simultaneously. We should phase it regionally, starting with the Northeast corridor where we have the strongest relationships. The old Derek would have exploded. This Derek leaned forward, studying her screen. Explain your reasoning. They debated for 2 hours. Voices were raised, not in anger but in passionate disagreement. By the end, they had created a hybrid approach that was stronger than either original plan. You are still infuriating, Derek said as they packed up their materials. The feeling is entirely mutual, Jasmine replied with a small smile. Your insistence on aggressive timelines is going to burn out our teams. Your caution is going to make us miss market opportunities. Good thing we have each other to balance it out then. Derek looked at her, something soft in his expression. Yes. Good thing. The evolution. Over the following months, they fell into a rhythm. Weekly strategy sessions that sometimes turned into debates about philosophy and life. Site visits to hospitals where they walked side by side, discussing implementation challenges. Late-night phone calls where Derek would ask her opinion on decisions he used to make alone. Jasmine watched him change in small but significant ways. He started saying please and thank you to his staff. He stopped throwing things when frustrated. He actually listened during meetings instead of just waiting for his turn to talk. When his new assistant made a mistake, he took a deep breath and calmly explained how to fix it rather than screaming. You are different, Jasmine told him one evening as they reviewed contracts in the Brightwell conference room. You changed me, Derek replied simply. Losing you was the wake-up call I needed. Though I wish I had figured it out before driving you away. Maybe it had to happen that way, Jasmine said. Maybe I needed to leave to discover my own value. And maybe you needed to lose me to understand what you were taking for granted. Derek was quiet for a long moment. Do you ever regret it? Staying at Hamilton Industries as long as you did? Jasmine considered the question carefully. I regret how you treated me. I regret not standing up for myself sooner. But I do not regret the experience. It made me stronger. It taught me exactly what I will never accept again. And now? Do you regret working with me again? No, Jasmine said, surprising herself with how quickly the answer came. Because this is different. We are different. You are different. The conference. The medical technology conference in Boston was supposed to be straightforward. 3 days of presentations, networking, and meetings with potential hospital partners. Jasmine and Derek had prepared extensively, coordinating their presentations to showcase the partnership's strength. What they had not prepared for was the snowstorm. It started on the second evening. Light flurries that quickly transformed into a full blizzard. By midnight, the city was paralyzed under 18 inches of snow with more falling. Flights were cancelled. Roads were impassable. Conference attendees were stranded. This is a disaster, Jasmine said, staring out the hotel window at the white landscape. We have the Henderson Group presentation tomorrow morning. I already called them, Derek said from behind her. They cannot get here either. We rescheduled for next month. Jasmine turned, surprised by his calm. The old Derek would have raged against circumstances beyond his control, would have blamed someone, anyone, for the disruption. I brought wine, he continued, holding up 2 glasses. Figured we might as well make the best of being trapped. They settled in the suite sitting area, the city buried in snow outside the windows. The storm had created a strange intimacy, cutting them off from the rest of the world. The honest conversation. Can I ask you something? Jasmine said after a comfortable silence. Why were you always so harsh with me specifically? I have seen you be charming with clients and board members. So why was I different? Derek swirled his wine, considering his words carefully. Because you terrified me. I terrified you? Derek, I am 5'3" and could not intimidate anyone. Not that kind of fear. He set down his glass. From the first day, you saw through all my defenses. Everyone else bought the image. The powerful CEO, the self-made success story, the man who had everything figured out. But you looked at me like you could see every crack in the foundation. Like you knew how fragile it all was. So you tried to push me away. I tried to make you quit before you could get close enough to hurt me. For almost 4 years, I did everything I could to drive you out. Derek laughed at himself. The irony is that by treating you terribly, I guaranteed the exact outcome I was trying to avoid. You left, and it almost destroyed me. Jasmine felt her heart race. Why are you telling me this now? Because I am tired of being afraid. Derek met her eyes with complete honesty. And because I have spent 6 months working beside you, watching you challenge me and improve me and make me want to be better. And somewhere along the way, I realized what I felt was not just professional respect. The moment of truth. The words hung in the air between them. Jasmine felt like she was standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. Derek, this is complicated. We work together. We have history. I know. There are 1,000 reasons why this is a terrible idea. He stood, moving to the window. But I have spent my entire adult life making safe choices, building walls, protecting myself from anything that might hurt me. And all it got me was an empty office and a string of people who could not wait to escape me. Jasmine joined him at the window, their reflections visible in the dark glass. I spent 4 years being angry with you. 4 years of going home exhausted and wondering why I stayed. Why I kept accepting treatment that I would never tolerate from anyone else. Why did you stay? Because underneath all the anger and frustration, there was something else. Jasmine took a deep breath. I saw who you could be. I saw moments of brilliance and unexpected kindness. I saw the person you were trying so hard to hide. And some part of me kept hoping you would let that person out. Derek turned to face her fully. They were standing closer than they ever had before. I am trying. Every day, I am trying to be the person you always believed I could be. I know, Jasmine said softly. I can see it. I do not want to mess this up, Derek continued. The partnership, the project, this friendship we have built. But I also cannot keep pretending that I do not feel something more. That I have not felt it for longer than I want to admit. Jasmine felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. For 4 years, she had wondered if she was imagining the connection between them. For 4 years, she had told herself she was being foolish, reading meaning where none existed. I feel it too, she whispered. Derek reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to step back. When she did not move, he gently touched her cheek. I do not deserve you. I never did. But if you are willing to give me a chance, I promise I will spend every day trying to become someone who does. You already are, Jasmine said. You just needed to believe it yourself. He leaned down, and she rose up on her toes, and when their lips met, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Like a question finally being answered. Like a journey reaching its destination. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in quiet beauty. But inside, two people who had spent years dancing around each other finally stopped running from what they had both known all along. The resolution. They talked through the night, planning not just their professional future but their personal one as well. They agreed to take things slowly, to keep their relationship private until they were certain it would last. They agreed that work would stay professional, that they would never let personal feelings compromise the partnership or their teams. But most importantly, they agreed that they had both changed. That the person Derek had been 4 years ago no longer existed, and neither did the woman who had accepted his terrible treatment. They were building something new together, both professionally and personally. I am still going to challenge you, Jasmine said as dawn began to break through the windows. I am still going to call you out when you are wrong. I would not want it any other way, Derek replied. That is why we work so well together. And if you ever throw a coffee mug again, you have my permission to walk out and never look back. Jasmine smiled. I will hold you to that.